Well, one of the real issues we see when it comes to integrating law of assumption, law of attraction type of concepts is this very dogmatic interpretation of something like your imagination, particularly in the law of assumption community. This video, I just want to give a counterpoint to like the normal law of assumption community interpretation or kind of approach towards utilizing your imagination. If you don't know who I am, my name is Tim Grimes, and I've written and edited 12 books on Neville's teachings. Books like Relax More, Try Less, Manifestation Through Relaxation. Those books were commentary. Also edited books that you might have read like Manifesting Miracles or The Wealth Mindset. I've dived deeply into Neville's teachings. And what I found when I came out the other side is a community, because I did most of that stuff I edited about 7, 8, 10 years ago. What I found after I did all that and kind of hopped onto the social media side of stuff via Reddit and YouTube and stuff, and starting at the beginning of this decade, is that the way people interpret imagination, your imagination creates reality, is not at all like the way I personally interpreted what Neville was saying. And in my experiences working with people over the years and working with myself and my relationship with myself and my relationship with others, it's nothing like the crap they say on YouTube, let alone Reddit. And mind you, I briefly moderated the Neville subreddit. So I've got a pretty good sense of what people say in regards to utilizing your imagination in the law of assumption community. And let me just be blunt. For those of you who are new to this channel, most of what people say is just absolute fucking garbage. Period. Garbage. Not going to help you. Going to hurt you. And Neville is still one of my favorite, manifestation type of teachers. Obviously, I love the guy. But his teachings, in my opinion, have basically been destroyed by this insane dogmatic community. And what I don't think a lot of people who get into the law of assumption understand is it's the blind leading the fucking blind. And the Dunning-Kruger effect full tilt, meaning most people know so little about this shit and about what Neville was talking about and what he actually taught that they think they're experts. They know so little, they think they're fucking experts. And the relatively few people that actually are integrating this stuff somewhat successfully often think, well, I'm not doing enough because there's so much more to learn. I'm in the latter camp. But also, I've just seen in my own life and working with many people that Neville is not necessarily going to be the most helpful teacher for you in this manifestation space, let alone in this spiritual space. There's a lot of other teachers out there, guys. And I'm not saying that Neville's the wrong teacher for you. I'm just saying that you are being naive and, quite frankly, not nice to yourself if the Neville stuff is not working for you that much, and yet you're still relying on it, as opposed to exploring some of these other great teachers that we always talk about on this channel. One of which I'm going to read an excerpt from one of his books today. And, the kind of teachers I explore thoroughly. Just check out my podcast, Law of Attraction Explored. Law of Attraction Explored, we very intentionally in that show explore all these different teachers. And you're going to see how similar they are. Now, notice how it's called Law of Attraction Explored, not Law of Assumption Explored. One red flag, you can tell right away if someone doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about, is if they think the Law of Assumption is all that different from the Law of Attraction. Because it's fucking not. Again, Dunning-Kruger effect. Oh, you're doing Law of Attraction as opposed to the Law of Assumption. No, you're a fucking moron. Shut the fuck up. Sorry. You can very easily argue that imagination, consciousness, is so dynamic that what people usually think of as imagination is not imagination whatsoever. I always talk about it. I've talked about it a lot recently. So much of this stuff is physiological. It has to do with the body just as much as the mind. Yet the way that this law of assumption stuff is interpreted, and generally speaking, the new thought stuff in general is interpreted, almost all the great teachers are too enraptured with the mind, with mentalization. Being like, you create your own reality. Like it's a mental thing. I'm mentalizing reality, right? I'm creating my own reality through my imagination. And then when you do that, you pigeonhole imagination. And, you might have a little success doing that, but it's not going to be very fulfilling long term. Imagination has to be worked with, played with, loved in a more holistic way, in my opinion. And I'm going to read from Invisible Supply today by Joel Goldsmith, who is just as good a teacher as Neville and will be a better teacher than Neville for many of you, based on your sensibility. And I'm going to put a video link above to a recent video seminar I did talking about Goldsmith versus Neville and a lot of these other popular manifestation teachers, including modern teachers like, Neuro Knowledge, or, other popular teachers online, and kind of contrast the popular Neville and then Neville light interpretation of imagination and using imagination, which tends to get mentalized, even though Neville at his best, in my opinion, was not mentalizing imagination, by the way. He was talking about it dynamically in the same way Goldsmith is. But the way the Neville advice is interpreted, and the way Neville himself often, especially in his later years, made it seem like imagination is like this tool, he made it way too esoteric and fucking bullshit. Here's another thing, guys, because people who are new to this channel might have never heard this before. Get ready for it. Get ready for it. Neville said a lot of fucking bullshit. Neville said a lot of fucking bullshit. A lot. And we all say a lot of bullshit. But if you have Neville up on a pedestal, you are making a fucking huge mistake, in all likelihood. But anyway, I'm going to read from Invisible Supply, which happens to be my favorite Joel Goldsmith book. It's a collection of talks he gave, I think, in the early 60s, around the subject of supply. I just want to read this to contrast how Goldsmith talks about imagination and the power of imagination compared to Neville. And I also want to reference here, as I often do, that the way that someone like Emile Coué speaks about imagination, which is very practical, psychologically based, is entirely different than these guys. The way that Neville talks about it or the way that Goldsmith talks about it. Neville and Goldsmith are figurative teachers. They are esoteric teachers. That means when you literally interpret what they say, like in regards to the imagination, you're fucked in all likelihood. I hope some of you are following this. Yeah. If you need help, again, if you're new here, I offer free complimentary 20-minute consultations. You get one of them, not multiple ones of them. A free 20-minute consultation with me if you want to get fucking real about this shit. Because if you're new, you're stuck in the fucking woods. If you're trying to find out about this stuff online. This is a hard-hitting video. I apologize. This small section from Invisible Supply the chapter's called 3 Principles of Healing. And one of the principles, one of the things he's talking about, that Goldsmith is talking about here, is nothingizing. Nothingizing. I love that. It's all about, instead of addition, we're always trying to add things, right? We're using imagination to add things. And Goldsmith is saying, well, all you really do is subtract. Subtract what's not true. This is very much an underlying New Thought metaphysical principle. In Manifestation Through Relaxation, a book I wrote about Neville's teachings back in, I think, 2016, I'm talking about this concept too, about how we're subtracting, not adding, right? Again, when I say that, that's figurative, okay? It's figurative. But some of you are digging the point of when I say you're not adding. Your imagination is not about adding. It's about subtracting. So just listen to this. Again, Goldsmith's just as good a teacher as Neville, guys. Listen to this passage. In Genesis, we are told that God created all that was made, and all that he made is good. If God created all that was made, and all that he made is good, then he did not make the cardinal mind or the mortal mind or Satan or the devil. They are only mental concepts of the human mind. Anything that is not good, God did not make. Anything that God did not create does not exist. If you want to know how powerless a human concept is, close your eyes now and in your mind build the largest atomic bomb you can possibly envision and combine it with hydrogen in all the forms of nuclear fission you have ever heard about. Now, multiply it 1,000 times. Then throw it up in the air and see what it can do. Nothing. It has no power. The bomb you have built in your imagination is only a mental concept. It has no substance, no law, no entity, no being. The only form it has exists only in your mind as a mental image. Once you begin to understand that this devil is a humanly created entity made in the human mind and not in God's, and that it has no law, no substance, no activity, no source, no channel, then you nullify it. You have recognized it for what it is: temporal power, the arm of flesh, nothingness. That is where your healing work begins. Regardless of the name or nature of the problem that confronts you, you can be assured that it is nothing but a temptation of the devil coming to you for acceptance or rejection. It is nothing more than a human concept which exists because of a belief in good and evil. When you no longer believe in good and evil, you no longer have a human mind or mortal mind. There is limitation, finiteness, negativeness only as long as there is a belief in good and evil. That's some hard-hitting shit. And that's figurative language. Just like Neville used, figurative language. And listen, Goldsmith says a bunch of bullshit too. We all say a bunch of bullshit. But my point is, if you're interpreting imagination creates your reality, imagination is everything, everything is you pushed out in this very dogmatic way, you gotta, unless that's working for you, which it's fucking not gonna work for you for 99.9% of you in all likelihood, sustainably, you gotta question how you're viewing imagination. Goldsmith right here is saying your imagination is bullshit. The bomb you have built in your imagination is only a mental concept. Once it drops, once you drop the concept of it, you have God. That, in my opinion, is the deeper point. And in my opinion, that also is really what Neville was getting at his best, when he was really his most articulate. But that is not a catchphrase or, oh, I'm shaping my reality through my mind. Goldsmith says, fucking drop all that and just focus on God by dropping, subtracting, don't add. Don't use your imagination, in short, to add anything. You don't need to add anything, subtract. It's like the clouds are covering the sun, but the sun's always there. That is an approach that's going to be more helpful for many of you, as opposed to trying to use your imagination to, basically manipulate reality. Fucking manipulating reality, man. You don't need to manipulate anything. Just recognize that you are God right now, but not in the way you think, in a deeper way. If you need help, you know where to find me.